Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to begin by saying, in the name of Allah, the beneficent and merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. And I further bear witness that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is indeed the eternal leader of the nation of Islam and has been exalted to the position of Christ. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a divine extension of the work of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank Allah for those three great men. In their names, I greet you in the greeting words of peace and assalamu alaikum. How's everyone feeling this morning? All praise is due to Allah. First, I want to begin by, of course, thanking Brother Abdul Rashid Muhammad for giving me the opportunity to come before the believers. If it were, 100 believers, I would say all praise is due to Allah. Or 100 of the people of God, I would say all praise is due to Allah. But as Allah is my witness, if it were just one, I would feel the exact same way. And I don't take this privilege lightly in coming before the believers and the beloved of Allah. So I thank him for giving me this opportunity. And this morning I come before you all with a very solemn spirit and a humble heart. I just got news a few minutes ago that Sister Chantel, ex-Marshal, just made her transition. She was a young woman, MGT, here in the city of Baton Rouge. She was one of the first persons who, under my tenure as MGT student captain, to one of the first group of those sisters who actually recited under me. And I think she may have been maybe about 40 years old. I got an opportunity to hug her neck, kiss her last week, bring her some bean soup. It looked like it was pretty bad, but I wasn't quite sure that it was going to happen that quickly. But may Allah be pleased with her soul, because we're taught that in the end, only our good lasts. Everything else that we do, it goes to the grave. Right. And all the good that we do lasts. So I thank Allah for her, and I pray that you all will pray with me for the strength of her family during this hard time, because she has two young children. She leaves to mourn two young children. One daughter who just entered high school, and her son probably is somewhere around maybe 6th grade, so they're pretty young. And her husband, of course, Brother Derek as well. With that being said, I want to talk about a subject that when Brother Derek had mentioned about having a local lecture. Last week, the lecture that student minister Ishmael gave was very powerful. Right. And I really suggest that everyone go back and really listen to that lecture and study that lecture. And this week I wanted to do something, and because it's just believers here, both registered and processing, talk about the condition of the nation of Islam at this time, which really is only a microcosm of the macrocosm, which is the condition of our people. Right. And the title of what I'm going to say is called "Had It Been a Near Gain and a Short Journey." Had it been a near gain and a short journey is an ayat, or a verse that comes from the Holy Qur'an, that in Surah 9, which is called the immunity, and it's also called the hypocrites. And I want to read a couple of different English translations of that particular ayat, because it lays the base for what I want to say today. This is the Muhammad Ali translation, and it says, "Had it been a near gain and a short journey, certain they would certainly have followed thee. But the hard journey was too long for them. And they swear by Allah, if we had been able, we would have gone forth with you. They caused their own souls to perish, and Allah knows that they are liars. This is the use of Ali translation. If it had been an immediate gain, he says, in sight, so if they could see the end, it says, and the journey was easy, they would have all, without doubt, it says, have followed thee. But the distance was long. They couldn't see any end in sight, and waited on them. They would indeed swear by Allah, if we only could, it says, we should certainly have come with you. And they would destroy their own souls, for Allah doth know that they are certainly lying. I'm going to look at some other translations, because the translations, they get more specific as you go into the translations. Here's another one that says, had it been a near gain and booty or the spoils of war, if they could see the material gain in front of them and an easy journey, they would have followed you. But the distance, it says, the Tabuk expedition was long for them. And they would swear by Allah, if we only could, we would certainly have come forth with you. They destroy their own selves, and Allah knows that they are liars. Let's look at another one. It says here, this is Pictal. This is the Caucasian who did the translation. Had it been a near adventure and an easy journey, they had followed thee. But the distance seemed too far for them, it says. Yet they swear by Allah, saying, if we had been able, we would have surely set out with you. They destroyed their souls, and Allah knoweth that they are liars. Now it keeps on going. I have about 15 different translations because I wanted to look and see exactly what this meant, because we talk about had it been a near gain and a short journey. But some of the other translators, because when we're dealing with Arabic, we're dealing with something that's being translated out of the original tongues, and things are lost in translation. It says if there was a quick material gain. Transport, if you will, back to 1972 in the Nation of Islam, when we saw the Muslims on the rise, when we saw the Muslims gaining material wealth and the ranks start swelling because people saw them. They saw the end in sight, at least so they thought. They saw the Muslims, the black Muslims coming up. They saw the benefit of them joining on with people who seemed like they had gotten victory. So lots of people swelled the ranks in 1972. By 1975, what happened? The nation fell in 6 months because our hearts were not pure. Because we weren't in it for the right reason. That within 6 months, it had disbanded. So we need to really look at the history. You know, a lot of us need to begin to start studying our history in the Nation of Islam and juxtapose it to the history of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Because there's much to be gained in studying history. Most Honorable Louis Muhammad said, history is most attractive and best qualified to reward our research. So within the study of history is a reward for us. Because we cannot make the mistakes of those who had gone before us if we study history properly. So it's important that we know our history. A lot of us, we get in the Nation of Islam and we like to say a lot of platitudes. Black man is God. Black woman is queen. But do we really know what that means? Do we really live by that, like Brother Rashid said? We can say a lot of nice, pretty words, and we can dress nice and look good, but what's in our heart? We need to really think about that. And so how will you know what's in your heart? Until Allah tries us. And he tries us with something of loss of life, diminution of fruit, losing everything that we have. He tries us with ill health. He tries us with our families. Allah tries us with these many things to see, not that he needs to know whether or not we are liars, whether or not, so we can see whether or not we are liars. That's what the trial is for. Trial is not for Allah, because he knows all. And I'm not going to go into the rest of the definitions, but if you all would like to get it, I have it available for you. Not the definitions, the translations. But here I want to deal with a couple of terms. The first term is, in this talk, had it been a near gain and a short journey. What is near? When something is near, what does that mean? It says at or to a short distance away, or nearby. Had it been a short journey. So when we come into the nation of Islam, you know, we would hope, I would hope that all of us hope, that we could get this message out to the people. Yes, that the ranks would be swelled in the mosque every time we come to the mosque in a short period of time.
That's right.
We know that this is the most powerful message that has ever been given since the foundations of the universe.
That's right.
And so we all think that when we hear this, like when we hear explosions go off in our mind, and we're ready, you know, ready to take over the world. We go around, you know, taking this message to our parents, talking about, I'm not going to eat that pork anymore, don't feed me no swine. You know, we go hard on people until then, okay, 6 months come. So how do we feel when we start going around people? Are we as hard and going as hard as we used to? Or are we convicted like we used to be?
Good question.
When we first came around, is it okay for people to use foul language around us? Do we feel comfortable, you know, going around, you know, people that are half dressed or going around? How do we feel after the time is gone?
Right.
When the journey starts getting longer and longer.
That's right.
I remember for myself, and I'm sure those who have been on this journey for a while. In 1996, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did a lecture called The Divine Destruction of America, Can She Avert It? And he said, let us count up the number. And so he started counting. He said that Master Farrakhan Muhammad said that the enemy, after he had come, would have 60 years of time left, an extension of 60 years from 1914. And he said, but he could have an extra 10 years that would be added. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan added it up. He said, did it start in 1934 when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad took the mission on by him, you know, absent of his teacher. And so he counted up 60 years and with the extra 10. And so, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, I'm a spiritual child. I'm just coming in 1995. That any day now, this thing is about to go down.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember when 1999 came and the Y2K, everybody was talking about the Y2K. I can remember putting survival stuff up, having all my pantry just with survival stuff, waiting for it to happen.
That's right.
December 31st, 1999 came. January 1st, 2000 came. America was still standing. What does that do to the mind of somebody who's waiting on the destruction of America?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the person in front of you told you a lie? Or is there something that we don't understand as spiritual children that we have yet to still learn?
That's right.
So, as with Moses traveling with the wise man told Moses, said that, you know, you can't travel with me because you won't have patience with me.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses was like, oh yeah, I have patience with you. I have patience with you. And he said that, you know, basically if you wouldn't listen or you wouldn't follow my lead, you're going to have to depart from me. So Moses, and Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this was Moses, the emancipator. He said that this was his followers who didn't have patience with him. So when the wise man was doing things that Moses in the scripture said that he thought it was a terrible thing. He sees a man that has a boat, he's a fisher person, he's a fisherman. He has a boat, And then Moses, you know, and the wise man are traveling, they come across this fisherman, and then what they do is that they cross the river. And after they cross the river, Moses puts a hole in the boat of the fisherman. And Moses is like, well, what is this thing that you're doing? This is an evil thing, that you would do something like that. And so Moses, not having a comprehensive knowledge of what was coming afterwards, so what happens? He started judging his teacher.
That's right.
And that's what we do. When we don't understand the moves of a general, which is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we in our own minds start wondering. We start following and doubting suspicion. Because had it been a near gain and a short journey, we would have all been with it. But why does Allah have to extend the time? Because we have to see what's in us. He can't build a new heaven and a new earth with people that still are harboring things within their heart that have not yet manifested to them own self. Because you would say, surely I would have been with you. Now let me, that's near. So what is gain? Gain is to obtain or secure something desired or favorable or profitable. As long as we can see the efficacy in being a Muslim in a world that's so decadent and so opposed to Allah, if we can see the benefit in it for us, we're with it. We're with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But what about if you can't see it? What if you just go just a little bit longer?
Right.
Then what could you see? I want you all to look at this guy. His name is David Goggins. Whenever you all get a chance, they call him the toughest man on the planet. Mm-hmm. This man named David Goggins, he was almost 300 pounds, and he wanted to become a Navy SEAL. And David Goggins goes to the recruitment place, almost 300 pounds, and says, I want to be a Navy SEAL. And he has 3 months before basic training starts to lose over 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. David Goggins said, I didn't have the money, I didn't have a personal trainer, said I had this. Mm-hmm. This man lost over 100 pounds in 3 months using his own mind. Mm-hmm. Now say this to say that the same man, he wanted to qualify for a marathon to help with the charity. And he didn't know anything about doing a marathon. It was a 100-mile race that you had to do under 24 hours. No, 19 hours. This man, he said he got to mile 80. He said he was urinating blood. He said that his kidneys had shut down. Both of his feet were broken. He was wrapping his feet up with duct tape. His shins, if you've ever been, his shin splints were broken. If you've ever been kicking your shin, you know how painful just being kicked in it. He said they were broken. He was urinating blood. He said a mile later, his mind said, I'm done. I'm done. He said he was dying. He said he sat down on the side in the lawn chair and he started hydrating, drinking some water. And he said, if I could just do one more mile, just one. He got up and he started walking. And he walked that 1 mile. And then after that, he said he walked a couple more. This is at mile 80. He had to do it under 20 hours. He said after that, what happened is that he said that he walked maybe about 10 more miles and somebody came to him and said, you're not going to qualify for the time if you don't hurry up. He said he started sprinting, doing 7-minute miles on broken feet, broken shin splints. He said he qualified. Running on broken feet and broken shin splints, urinating blood. He said by the time that he finished the race, he said all he could do was sit down and say his wife had to pull up his truck and just kind of just throw him in the truck and say, gets home. He says, and she gets him into the shower. He said by this time he's urinating something that looks like dirt. His wife calls his mom, who's dating a doctor at the time, and says that he's dying. We need to hurry up and get him to the emergency room. He said he told his wife while the water, he said he was in a fetal position in the shower, and the water was just coming down. He said, hold on just a minute. He said he had an opportunity to do something that hardly anybody ever has to do. He said he was able to give himself an autopsy about the cause of his death while he was living. He said, wait a minute, I want to be in this moment. He said, when you get to that point where that journey seems so far and you can't see it, that you just have to stop in that moment. And you have to be present and understand that what you're doing is for a higher cause. He said at that point, his mind kicked in. His mind opened up and expanded. He said, once you push past the darkness, once you push past that long journey, that's the time when you see the light. When you can see through Allah's eyes, the long journey. But a lot of us don't want to push past that. He says that most of us are only operating at 40% or less. And we say we're trying at 40% or less. As Muslims, and in this dark hour, we can't get 40% or less. There's more in us to give. If Allah says that He came to make us into a nation of gods, do you think that what we're doing is enough to become a God?
That's right.
It's not enough.
No, man.
The journey is not a quick journey. The way that He says you have 40%, no, 20% that He says that 20% is what you give. And He said that in order to really get to the other side, you have to go through the 80% to get the 100%. So we may be at 40% in terms of what we're doing. As Brother Rashid said, this mission is not for us to come in here and romance the mic. It's not for us to come to meetings. It's not for us to just, give a little charity and feel good with what we've done. It's for us to defeat Satan.
That's right.
To take Satan's world down.
Oh, yeah.
We have what we need. But we have to go through the 80%. We have to go through the darkness. We have to go through the difficulty. We have to go through loss of life, loss of money, loss of friends, being tried with all of this to get to the other side.
That's right.
Now, I want to say this as I'm closing. What is short? Near what is short? Short is measuring a small distance from end to end. So it had been a short journey. If we knew when we came in here that in 5 years this thing would be over, you can hang in there for 5 years. Say, I got this.
That's right.
And so we come in. But what if it's not?
Good question.
We come in and then there's 5 years past, 10 years past, 15 years past, 20 years past, and we're still looking for the end.
Yeah.
But what if we just give a little bit more? And then we see the victory. Now, a journey means lasting or taking a small amount of lasting. In this case, it says, or taking a small amount of time. Now, in this journey, as I close, it was called the Tabuk expedition. There was a place in Arabia called Tabuk, in the northwestern corner of Arabia. Long story short, the Roman or the Byzantine Empire, which were the Romans, the same people that killed Jesus 2,000 years ago, were trying to, stop the rise of Islam. Same people that we're fighting against today. This is the modern day Rome, the modern day Babylon,
Right.
that is trying to stop the rise of Islam.
That's right.
And so there's this expedition that the prophet said that he was going to lead. And I'm going to just go ahead and quickly go over this because history is most attractive and best qualified to reward our research.
That's
So
right.
if we know what has happened in the past, then we can avoid making the same mistakes in the future.
That's right.
So the expedition to Tabuk, also known as the expedition to Usura, was a military expedition that was initiated by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now he led. Now I want us to transport ourselves in our minds back to Arabia. This was in 630 AD. So this was about 1,400 years ago. And he led a force of 30,000 troops across a desert. It's hot outside.
Oh, yeah.
It get hot inside. Now just imagine you're in Arabia where the temperatures get up to be over 100 degrees every day in the sun.
That's right.
And he leads an expedition of people on camels, not in cars, nice Mercedes and nice Ford Expeditions and all these nice trucks and stuff and cars we have, on camels. They get on those camels and they ride across the desert.
That's right.
From Mecca to Tabuk. I'm not talking about from here to New Orleans on a camel. I'm talking about days travel to get there, to fight. So it says here that following the rumors of the Byzantine invasion, the Muslims and the allies of Muhammad received an urgent call to join a campaign. It says, but the Arabs of the desert showed little interest. Many came up with excuses not to participate. Muhammad provided incentives to persuade the Arabs to join and provided with many gifts. Muhammad and his forces moved northwards to Tabuk near the Gulf of Aqaba in October of 630. It was the largest and last military expedition. Ali ibn Abi Talib, who participated in almost every other expedition of Muhammad, did not participate in Muhammad's Tabuk expedition, as he was commanded at Medina. After arriving at Tabuk and camping there, Muhammad's army prepared to face the Byzantine invasion. Muhammad spent 20 days at Tabuk scouting and making alliances with local chiefs, but no sign of the Byzantine army. He decided to return to Medina. Though Muhammad did not encounter a Byzantine army at Tabuk, according to the Oxford Encyclopedia of the Islamic World, it says, this show of force demonstrated his intentions to challenge the Byzantine control for the north part of the caravan from the route to Mecca to Syria. Now, what I'm going to say here is that as the prophet was calling this campaign, normally he didn't tell the people that he was taking with him on these trips where they were going. They were like, come on, let's go take a trip. But this time, Prophet Muhammad said, look, we're about to march on to Tabuk. I need you all to come with me. Before, people didn't know. Now he's saying, come on, I need you to come. I want us to think about this. These are people that, during that time, didn't have all the weapons of war. When they went to war, they were doing hand-to-hand combat.
That's right.
You were looking your enemy eye to eye. And you know how much courage it takes to fight somebody eye to eye?
That's right.
That's not easy. And they were fighting with swords and things like that. They weren't shooting guns from a distance.
No.
Say, come on, let's go. So what happened is that they needed money. So many of the people that were rich started giving money to go ahead and take this expedition. It said that at that time there was drought and famine everywhere. And he said most of the mujahideen that would take part in the war had no money, but had to buy weapons and spend on war preparation. So you had to buy your own weapons to go to war, to fight for Islam.
That's right.
He said, but the messenger asked the rich Muslims to help for the war preparation. And the rich Muslims answered the call immediately, he said. So those of us who have money, we have to give money to the cause to fight for Islam. He said that there were some who didn't have any money. I like this story. He said they came there. There was this one man who had some dates. All he had was some food, a little thing of dates. He said, I brought these dates, and that's a piece of fruit that you take on, because there was no Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, that you could stop at in the desert to get a meal. So they got some dates. And he said, I have these dates. I have this one thing of dates. And he said, I left one of them with my family. That's all I had. And the prophet was so moved by that. He didn't have a horse, a camel, he didn't have anything. He was so moved by that he had prayed for that man's family. He left his family with one thing of dates to go on this expedition. And he prayed that his family would be enriched. The women of that time couldn't go to war, but what they did is that they sacrificed. They took out their gold earrings They took off their gold bangles. They took off everything that they had that was of value and gave it for the war effort. How many of us are willing to give everything that we have to fight for something that's greater than what any one of us can see? And then they have these other called the Bakun people. They're called criers. And there were some people that wanted to take place in the war. There were 7 men that came up and said that we don't have anything. We don't have dates, we don't have camels, we don't have anything. And the prophet told them, said, well, thank you for offering your service, but you can't come. And they said that those people just started crying because of the fact that they couldn't give their lives for this cause that was bigger than them. How many of us are in that condition? How many of us, if we didn't have anything to give, would cry because we couldn't go to war? We couldn't fight for this thing, and we had it easy. We have a mosque that's been given to us. We have air-conditioned seats. I mean, really, all they do is come sit down and listen. For the most part, or come pick up a broom and sweep. We don't even have to go war to war, hand-to-hand combat at this time. So what's our excuse? What is our excuse? And so the prophet gets his people together, and then what happens? Have somebody call the Munafiqeen, or the Munafiqun. Those are the hypocrites. That's what this whole section is about. They start what? Talking about, y'all going out there with them, y'all gonna die because it's hot in the desert. You know, telling the other people, say, you know, who does Muhammad think that he is to fight against such a big army? Fight against the United States government? Mm-hmm. Who does he think that he is? And so those people start talking against the prophet and his campaign to fight against the enemy of Islam. So when Prophet Muhammad and his troops get to Tabuk, nobody's there. The Byzantine Empire hears about them coming, and they're like, I'm not even going to deal with it. So they just had to go, and the victory was already there. What about those who stayed back? And they were made manifest to themselves. So when the prophet gets there, it says that the Islamic army was waiting in Tabuk. The prophet stood up and leaned against a date tree, it said, and made the following speech. Shall I tell you who is the best and the worst people among people? The best person is the one who works in the way of God on his horse, camel, or on his own 2 feet. The worst is the one who reads books of God, but it does not benefit from it. That's what Brother Rashid was saying. That we talk nice talk. You know, we read the Qur'an, we quote the Qur'an, we quote the Bible, but we ain't doing nothing in the way of Allah. Who's the best and who's the worst? Is the one that shows up or gives a good word, brings people to the truth? Who's the best and who's the worst? And I say this to say, and I said as I was closing, and I really am. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in 1931, started off on a journey. And he thought, in 4 years, they raised up 25,000 troops. Prophet Muhammad had 30,000 troops. Doesn't that sound similar? At that point, 30,000 people that believe in what you believe in one city. Just imagine we had 25,000 believers right here in the city of Baton Rouge. In our mind, we're going to take this whole thing. And as soon as the trials came, as soon as the enemy started moving on the Muslims, what happened? The hypocrites came up, started whispering and murmuring about what the enemy is going to do. The enemy is too big, he's too bad. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to leave Detroit and move to Chicago, just like the prophet. They had to leave because the hypocrites were trying to take him out before he could get Islam established in the land. And then after that, of course, he has to leave Chicago because the hypocrites are on the move. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes it to Washington, D.C., where he was arrested. And when he was arrested, he goes to jail. He stays on the run for 7 years. I want us to put this in perspective. 7. Then he's arrested for 5 years, 12 years on the run. Now I want us to think about this. How many of us would stay the journey if for 12 years out of our lives that we had sacrificed, we didn't see nothing, the hard times, being arrested, eating, food, having your own blood brother try to kill you? How many of us would stay the journey?
Come on.
Had it been a near gain and a short journey, surely all of us would have been with the Prophet, be with Muhammad. So, as I bring my plane to a landing, in 1994, the extension of the work of the Most Honorable Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan makes a call to the Muslims for a Tabuk expedition. Says we go into Washington, D.C. And we all, the women support. We give all that we have. Give our riches, give our gold earrings, give our bangles. The men, they're sponsored. You don't have Coca-Cola sponsoring bus trips. So those who have money help with those who can't go and help sponsor somebody to go to Washington, D.C. Then you have those who don't have anything. They're trying to go and say, well, if you can't go, maybe you can just support us from where you are.
Right.
I mean, if you want to know about history, we're walking through the pages of history right now.
That's right.
But if we don't study the history of the past, we won't be able to see it. And we won't qualify ourselves for the reward that is waiting for us.
Right.
So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, at the head of 2 million men on that Tabuk expedition, goes to Washington, D.C. And what happens when we show up? Bill and the boys have gotten out of town. Just like the Tabuk expedition.
Right.
That was the victory there, saying that you're going to go, that you support, that you believe this man that we have in front of us is the man of God, is the voice of God in our midst.
That's right.
If we see it or not. But we have to know what's in us.
Right.
So allow us prolonging the time so that we can be purified. Not so that we can get disheartened, not so that we can give up, not so that we can say, had it been a near gain and a short journey, surely we would have been with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Today is the day that we can make a decision if we are going to stay the course.
Right.
The victory is assured. And the sooner we make our decision to do that, regardless of whatever we felt in the past, regardless of whatever doubt we've had in the past, now is the time to make that decision. Now is the time to move forward. The victory is ours, it's assured. All we have to do is stick with the man of God. And I thank you all for listening to, maybe not such short words, but listening to the words that I had to share with you all that was on my heart. All praise is due to Allah.
Are you listening? Damn.